The impossible has happened. Donald J. Trump, defying all expectations, has once again captured the American presidency. The year is 2024, and a nation deeply divided finds itself thrust back into the turbulent waters of a Trump administration. His victory speech, delivered to a roaring crowd of red-hatted supporters, echoed the themes of his first campaign, America First, Make America Great Again. But the world Trump inherits in 2024 is far different from the one he left behind. Global conflicts rage, economic uncertainty looms, and the very foundations of international order seem to be crumbling. The question on everyone's mind: will Trump be a force for peace and stability, or will his presidency push the world closer to the brink? The 2024 election was one of the most contentious in American history. Trump, running on a platform of economic nationalism and a promise to restore American strength on the world stage, tapped into a deep well of resentment and frustration among voters who felt left behind by the political establishment. His opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, struggled to articulate a clear vision for the future, and her campaign was plagued by accusations of weakness and inexperience. In the end, Trump's message of anger and nostalgia proved more persuasive, and he rode a wave of populist anger back to the White House. To understand Trump's approach to foreign policy, one must first understand his background as a businessman. Trump, the self-proclaimed king of debt, built his empire on a foundation of high-stakes negotiations, ruthless deal-making, and a willingness to push boundaries. He sees the world as a series of transactions where every interaction is a zero-sum game, and the only measure of success is whether you come out on top. This transactional approach to foreign policy was evident throughout his first term. From trade deals to military alliances, Trump viewed everything through the lens of what America could gain or lose in the short term. He showed little interest in traditional diplomacy or the complexities of international relations. Instead, he relied on his gut instincts and a belief that his own deal-making prowess could solve even the most intractable global challenges, whether it was threatening to withdraw from NATO, imposing tariffs on Chinese goods, or meeting with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Trump's foreign policy was often impulsive, unpredictable, and driven by a desire to project an image of strength and dominance. The world Trump now presides over is a tinderbox, with conflicts simmering and erupting across the globe. The war in Ukraine, reignited in 2024 after a fragile ceasefire crumbled, continues to rage, pitting Russia against Ukraine and its Western allies. The Middle East remains a cauldron of instability, with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict flaring up once again and tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia threatening to boil over. In Asia, China's growing assertiveness in the South China Sea has raised alarms throughout the region, while North Korea's nuclear ambitions continue to pose a major threat to global security. Climate change, another pressing global challenge, has only intensified in recent years, leading to more extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and mass displacement. The COVID-19 pandemic, while largely under control in the developed world, continues to wreak havoc in poorer countries, exacerbating existing inequalities and fueling social unrest. These overlapping crises have created a sense of fear and uncertainty around the world, a yearning for strong leadership and decisive action. The question is, can Donald Trump, with his history of impulsiveness and unpredictability, provide the kind of steady hand needed to navigate these treacherous waters? Section 4. Trump, the Peacemaker. Can strength bring stability? To his supporters, Trump's return to the White House represents the best hope for peace and stability in a dangerous world. They argue that his willingness to use American military might, coupled with his unpredictable nature, makes him uniquely suited to deal with adversaries like Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. The argument goes that these leaders, accustomed to dealing with weak and indecisive American presidents, will be forced to back down in the face of Trump's willingness to use force. They point to his first term, where he defied expectations by engaging with Kim Jong-un and brokering a historic, albeit short-lived, agreement with the North Korean leader. They also highlight his tough stance on China, arguing that his tariffs and trade war, while controversial, were necessary to force Beijing to the negotiating table. For those who believe in peace through strength, Trump's return represents a welcome change from what they see as the weakness and appeasement of the previous administration. They argue that only a leader like Trump, who is not afraid to use American power, can stand up to the world's dictators and restore order to the global stage. Section 5. Trump, the Disruptor, a catalyst for global chaos. However, many fear that Trump's return to power will have the opposite effect, pushing the world closer to conflict and chaos. They point to his history of impulsive decision-making, his disdain for diplomacy, and his tendency to prioritize his own personal interests over the national interest. They argue that his erratic behavior and inflammatory rhetoric will only serve to inflame tensions and make it more difficult to find peaceful solutions to global problems. His critics worry that his transactional approach to foreign policy, his willingness to use American power unilaterally, and his disregard for international norms will alienate allies, embolden adversaries, and undermine the rules-based international order that has kept the peace for decades. They fear that Trump, driven by his own ego and a desire to project strength, will make reckless decisions that could have catastrophic consequences for the world. For those who view Trump as a loose cannon, his return to power represents a grave threat to global stability. They fear that his presidency will be marked by increased tensions, miscalculations, and a heightened risk of conflict. Section 6. The uncertain future, a world holding its breath. As Trump settles back into the Oval Office, the world watches with a mixture of apprehension and cautious hope. His presidency is a wild card, full of both terrifying risks and tantalizing possibilities. Will he be the peacemaker who, through strength and a willingness to break the mold, can forge a more stable world order? Or will he be the disruptor, the catalyst for chaos and conflict on a global scale? Only time will tell. One thing is certain, the next 4 years will be unlike anything the world has ever seen.